West Texas Droning, episode number 45, or something like that. Let's go to New Mexico. This was to be a second video about droning around in New Mexico. Time got a little short, and we had a snag, which I'll tell you about. On the way to our destination, we stopped in Roswell, New Mexico for lunch, home of the famous UFO crash that occurred in 1947. That was shortly before the one that happened at Fur Hopper Ranch in 1949. Many people think that the Roswell crash was a legend and that the crash debris was really just a bunch of debris from a crashed weather balloon, and that there's really no UFO activity at Roswell, and that may be the truth. Then on to our destination, Santa Fe. Santa Fe is a beautiful place, rich Native American history, beautiful, beautiful scenery with the mountains. If you like to ski, Taos up north of Santa Fe is the place to go. This is a wonderful place I love to visit. Plus we have some relatives there. And of course, the Native Americans share their rich culture. It's all over town, and it's the characteristic of a very proud and artistic people, and I really enjoy interacting with them when I get the chance. Now, there is an interesting natural rock formation north of Santa Fe called Camel Rock, and it looks like a big camel sitting on the ground in the desert. I made an inquiry as to whether or not it was okay to fly around that formation, and found out that it's okay. Now you can see the pin there, that's Camel Rock, and up the right here says clear to fly, no problemo. And I thought, well, I think there's reservation lands around here somewhere. Is that true everywhere? And I clicked another place that said clear, no problem, let's go fly. And I thought, you sure about that? Well, not so fast. But I checked other apps too, and they said, hey, clear to fly. And I checked another app about that area, and it says, okay to fly, no advisory, stay alert, fly safety. And I thought, now, wait a minute, not so fast. There are Native American lands there, and Native Americans have certain sovereign powers over their lands, and you need to be careful. There's a man up in Minnesota had an engine fail on his aircraft, and he had to make an emergency forced landing, and he landed on their property. They confiscated his aircraft, said you can't take off or land on tribal lands without permission. He was an emergency, guys. And then here's the kicker. They said that they control the airspace up to 20,000 feet above their property. Think about that. Native Americans hold about 56 million acres in the United States, and it's in majority of the states. And so it's wise for you to double check to see if there's any issues where you're going to fly, if it might entail flying over tribal lands. That's a lot of land. And not only that issue you need to check about, because if you think about it, your apps that you check may not show it. So if you land on their land, they catch you or fly over their land, they do have the right, they say, to confiscate your drone and give you a fine. So I checked back and I thought, well, let me ask Grok, who knows everything, can I fly over the Camel Rock reservation structure? Can I fly over that rock feature? And it says, yeah, you can fly over Camel Rock. 100% legal, no tribal approval needed, and just obey the FAA 107 regulations. And I thought, well, that's kind of strange because there are tribal lands and there are issues with that. So I asked again, are you sure? Well, the second time I asked later on, it said, well, not really. You may have to get permission if it's above 200 feet above the ground, and probably so if it's below 200 feet above the ground. But most Indian tribes that I've heard of consider 500 feet above the ground down to the surface their sovereign airspace. So if you're going to fly there, you better get some permission. Call the tribal council or whoever they have a government number and find out, can you fly a drone? Some of the areas you want to fly over may be sensitive cultural property, and they may not want that intrusion. So go ahead and ask them. They may say yes, they may say no. They may say yes, but you have to get a permit, and you may have to get it well in advance. Just take that into consideration when you're flying around these areas. Now, on to the fun part of this video. Most of the time when you land your drone, you push the return to home function and you just let her rip. And you sit there and watch it come down, and you marvel at the brilliant precision of your drone. And sometimes it comes down and it doesn't come down so good, and you have to take it over. And I thought, wait a minute, who's flying this drone? Is it me or is it the controller? Who's flying? Who's in control legally? 107 says the pilot in command is the guy that has to be in control of the drone. So I got to thinking, when I was a youngster learning how to fly, the way I learned landing proficiency was making touch-and-go landings. That being the case, I thought, it might be a good idea just to go out and practice landing my drone, maybe in harsh circumstances, and just get a good handle, practicing taking off and landing, and see if I can improve my landing proficiency. So I decided to make some takeoff and landings with my drone. I was graded by a distinguished panel of impartial judges, and I did edit out the time between the takeoff and the landing to speed things up a little bit. So let's go watch some touch and goes. Now, it was kind of windy out there, and I'll try to cut the noise down, but just gives you a hint that it was windy. You can see that pole rocking in the background to give you a little bit of an idea of what I was contending with. Here you notice that I start up the motors, they quit, and then I restart them, and I'd never seen that before. Have you? That happens again later on. there it happened again. I started the motors up and then they just quit. Getting a little better there. I'm not sure what their scale is on judging. I hope it's not 100. That's better. Now you hear me rumbling around the background there. This is sort of like practicing bleeding. But I thought I'd give it a try, get out there and hone my skills a little bit. And if you think you might be interested in just going out and practicing, get a little stick time practicing your landing, I can recommend to you some procedures you might think about or not. But do a complete pre-flight weather, airspace, aircraft, controller settings. That's helpful. And your pre-flight yourself, of course, every time you fly. Take off and land into the wind. And don't be shy about landing in a little bit gustier winds. The practice is good for you. When you're descending, set your gimbal full down, just like happens on a lot of drones with return to home. And that will keep you over the target area, which is your landing pad, and let you judge the drift better. I found that using normal mode worked best for me this day. Sport was a little bit too aggressive on the controls, and Cine would probably work better on lighter winds. But in the meantime, you might try it. Like I said, it's like practicing bleeding, but you never know when you might need to fall back on those skills. Well, thank you very much for stopping by. We ask that you like, comment, share, subscribe. We appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you next time. May God bless. you.